Whoa. What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing good. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties here. Maybe we'll talk about Paul Gilbert too. So, I had not planned on making a video for a while. I was taking a break from YouTube, but with the passing of the mighty Eddie Van Halen, I did want to get some thoughts out about him and why I think he's the greatest player that ever lived. When I was a teenager, I lived Van Halen, ate, breathed, and slept Eddie Van Halen. I wanted to sound like him. I wanted to be him. I thought he was the coolest guy who ever lived. I used to have a picture of him next to my bed, as strange as that sounds, to remind me to practice. So I had read him and Steve Vai as well, these 8, 10, 12-hour practice sessions. I thought, well, in order to get good, you have to do that, which is ridiculous. You do not. And then as time went on and I got older and progressed in the instrument, I got away from Van Halen, Eddie Van Halen, but he was still one of the guys. It was like two guys I can go back and listen to and say they still wow me. It's Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eddie Van Halen. Watching them play the guitar it's otherworldly. It just, with so much ease and just like an extension of their body. It's unbelievable. And when I say greatest, I don't mean the best, and I don't mean he should be your favorite. I think there's my short list of greatest guitar players are the guys that had the biggest influence, the longest reach, and that would be Robert Johnson, Chuck Berry, Jimi Hendrix, and Eddie Van Halen. And there were lots of guys in between that were better than them technically and in a million different ways. The jazz guys and the shredding before this dude was born. And there was a lot of great guitar players, and then you have guys like Clapton and Page and Steve Vai and all these ones in between that have great influence, but I think just didn't have the reach, and they're a little bit more narrow in their scope of influence. And I could be totally wrong. And you can make a good argument that Jimi Hendrix is the greatest guitar player ever, but you have the technical stuff with Eddie Van Halen, how many people he influenced, and there were people that were doing this stuff prior to him. He didn't invent two-handed tapping and some of these other things like the volume swells that you hear at Cathedral, but he was a guy who brought them to the masses, and he did it through pop music, which is pretty unbelievable. To have so many hit albums that every album was a hit, and so many hit songs, and to play guitar that way in those songs and different all the time is pretty exceptional. Every album he was trying to do something different. You have Eruption, Spanish Fly, Cathedral. You have a million different instrumentals that these little things to kind of show you, hey, I got something new. One thing I saw that was really cool was that he would carry around tools in his pockets, or is it Variax or something. He was like a mad scientist, like the guitar. It was, everything about his playing was unique and special, and there were a million guys that wanted to be him and sound like him, and nobody could. Another one, Mean Streets, like the opening to Mean Streets, just, and I hear that rhythmic thumping it just gets me going. And then as a kid, as a teenager, I really loved the rough stuff. That was my jam. I loved it. And I didn't really care for the Hagar stuff. But as I've gotten older, I listen to Hagar stuff, and I'm even more blown away. Because to have, if you listen to the last track on 1984, which I think is House of Pain, and then the first track, 5150, the first album with Sammy Hagar. The difference in sound is unbelievable, but it's still palatable to everybody. And that ability to reinvent yourself, without going down the tubes, which we'll talk about in a second, is extremely difficult. Bands either stay the same, throughout their career and, get kind of stale, or they change, and generally they change for the worse. It's very hard to find that balance. Get it? Balance. But he did it, and the sound of wood and metal just screeching that he had up until 1984, and then 5150 was so harmonically rich and thick and chorusy, and just this saturated sound when he started playing the Soldano, the 5150 amp, and we'll get to that too in a second. But then, so you had all these great albums with Hagar where his sound was totally different. And then at the end, I think maybe his best instrumental that nobody people don't really talk about it as much because it is so different, and it isn't as showy, is Respect the Wind off the Twister soundtrack. Just an unbelievable, tasteful playing. It's so good. If you haven't heard Respect the Wind, go listen to it. And that was right at the time that Hagar and Van Halen were going their separate ways. And you have this next. You have that time between, and then you have Gary Cherone and Van Halen 3, the album that everybody hates. But you could hear with Respect the Wind, I think you could hear the beginnings of what would have been his sound. So in the Van Halen 3 era, if it had been better. If they had, I think he was drinking a lot, from what I remember. Gary Cherone is probably not the best fit, but I wish people would give that album more of a chance. There's some really interesting playing on that album. But again, he changed his sound, and it was still that the songs might not be great to a lot of people. Cherone singing doesn't fit on the album, but the music, give it a chance. If you haven't listened to Van Halen 3, I think the song, I love that song, Once. The solo in that, it's not anything real technical. He's like using a trans-trem, so it's going high and low and high. It's just, give it a chance. Probably gonna hate it. Most people do. But again, he changed his sound, and if things were just a little bit different, I think it would have been a pretty unbelievable, unbelievable album, and who knows what would have happened from there. So the other thing is what he's done sonically. When 5150 came out, he started using the Soldano, which became the PV 5150. That I hear it every single day. Any metal that I listen to, if you listen to now, you hear that sound that he helped usher in, or he did. If you listen to the track Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do, the chorus, and the first chord of the chorus, he's in drop D, and it's just a big open sounding D chord, and it growls, and you could hear it's just that sound on that album. You can hear that everywhere now. It's different, but it is every 5150, that amp, that sound became staple of heavy metal, and it still is. People still try to get that sound. So he had this other influence sonically that that. Oh, my camera's messing up. That is maybe not as obvious, but it is still there. So you have the technical ability, the ability to change constantly and still be unique and interesting and palatable to most people. You know, forget about that for a minute, or don't. And for the gear wise, like I said, sonically, you still hear it now. Listen to most heavy metal albums, you're gonna hear that 5150 sound. So I don't know. I was not planning on doing this video, so it's a bit messy and my thoughts are a bit jumbled. It's also 4:10 a.m. So that's why I think he's the greatest guitar player ever. A lot of people are going to disagree. A lot of people don't even like, they don't like that style, and that's okay, but it's very sad that he passed away. I had read that he was sick and flying back and forth from Germany for cancer treatments maybe 4 months ago or so, the beginning of the summer, I think, and there were rumors, but they sounded, I knew he was fighting cancer. But even with all that, it's a pretty big shock that he died. And it's a weird feeling, because generally with celebrities or famous people, I don't feel this way. But he was the soundtrack to my youth, a huge part of it, and so many others. He's a household name, and it's very rare for someone to be a virtuoso and to, again, make it palatable for everybody, pretty much everybody. And it sucks. So rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen. I really recommend giving Van Halen 3 a chance. Might take a few times, might never take, probably won't, but just give it a chance. It has some interesting stuff on it, and yeah, that's my crappy video. So I hope everybody's doing good, and I will be back soon with some other stuff, and that's it. Peace.